Good morning, everybody. My name's Nick Prescott. I'm here with G&D Media to report on the Eco Socialism conference at the Indian YMCA in London. It's absolutely freezing here at the moment, so looking forward to getting inside and getting stuck in. All right, let's go. Hi, I'm with Max Agel. I wanted to ask, you've been speaking about kind of socialist strategy. We're in the global north, and you talked about the different strategies between the global north and the global south. Why specifically do we need an eco-socialist strategy to address these issues?
There are urgent intertwined issues of social reproduction, that is like popular well-being, that pass through the environment. Like the environment itself, which is necessary for human life, is being degraded in ways that are unnecessary for popular well-being. So there are ways of immediately shifting away from destructive forms of production in the north that are right in front of us, that we can take these steps that obviously are informed by ecological science, that are and that we have the technologies available to do them, that are not being taken because they're being blocked by catabolic forms of contemporary capitalism and imperialism.
With your role as a Unite rep, often Unite has sometimes had a mixed record with climate issues, especially around the expansion of the airport in Heathrow. What do you think is your role as a rep in kind of propagating and making the case for eco-socialist policies within the union?
So you're totally correct that we've got some problematic positions of Unite, but also in the wider trade union movement, that our focus has very been about saving jobs. And we understand that because we do represent people, in the oil industry, automotive, aviation, etc. And those jobs are being threatened by transition, which is why we speak about the need for a just transition. So it's not workers and local communities paying the price for, change that we desperately need. However, the problem we've got is that a lot of those issues are dealt with at higher level of unions by more like bureaucratic power, and rank and file workers and rank and file members don't really get the opportunity to come together and develop our own alternatives. So therefore, we have created our own network called the Unite Grassroots Climate Justice Caucus, which aim to have members from all sectors coming together to reflect about solutions for our sectors.
And therefore, we need to keep in mind the social, that is the socialization of the means of production, and also the eco, that is the embedding of our forms of production in the non-human environment in ways that are more or less permanently sustainable. The hyphen keeps in mind that we look to both as we not only seek to take control of the productive forces, but to also transform them in an ecologically restorative direction.
Our union hasn't got a strategy for just transition. We are sitting on the fence, and there's 3 recent examples that show that the result is unfortunately job losses. So, for example, you've got the steel sector at the moment. So until recently, the union supported the employer's view that we need subsidies from government to transition to electric furnaces. There have been dialogue now with Tata Steel and the government with commitment to those investments, but the unions were excluded from those talks. And the result was that the plan was to shelve a few thousand of jobs while they were building the new furnaces, and we didn't really have a plan. Similarly, we are told, just transition, we are on top of it when it comes for oil workers in Scotland. But what we've just seen in the last couple of weeks is that the Grangemouth refinery is going to be closed with a loss of, I think, 450 jobs and no plan for transition.
We're here in London. We're here in the belly of the beast, pretty much. What does the strategy look like in here for movements and local communities and working class people in the global north?
Unions need to actively support on a universal scale the struggles for national liberation, by which it means at the very least prevent the governments of the core states from destroying struggles for national liberation or trampling on either the sovereignty or the self-determination of a colonized or neo-colonized people. I mean, this is very concrete. For example, there is a huge crisis in the contemporary union movement, as I understand, about support for Palestinian national liberation. There is a huge crisis of support within the contemporary Western left for Palestinian national liberation. People cannot simply say, I support Palestinian national liberation. This is inseparable from my socialist commitments, and we need to change the UK state policy of sending arms and offering diplomatic support to the genocidal campaign. I mean, the UK has also signed on to a wide variety of multilateral coercive sanctions against countries in the global south. I mean, not least what the UK government acted in countries like the former so-called Rhodesia, in other words, Zimbabwe. You know, why isn't that part of an eco-socialist transition? They need to carry out the sovereign transformation of their productive forces in an eco-socialist direction, and the government here, with too much quietude on the part of the unions and, we should say, most of probably the working class, is there is quietude about these savage policies that are being carried out by the government. I mean, that is an eco-socialist orientation, because that is this is a force that is stopping the self-determination, the self-directed development of the productive forces of a country like Zimbabwe.
But because we didn't have a clear plan, we haven't been able to have a proper union campaign, and ultimately we should be going on strike for asking for those alternative jobs, retraining and reskillings that is paid by the employers, and also making sure that the new sectors such as renewable energy, creating solar panel and wind turbines, are properly paid jobs with good terms and conditions and health and safety and union recognition, which is currently not the case.
So almost in this case, the lack of a strategy from up high in the more higher echelons in the union are kind of preventing or closing that space to have a more rank and file discussion about pushing this forward, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And one strategy we are trying to push, it hasn't been trialed, so I don't know if we'll get the result that we hope for, but it's called the model of workers' assemblies, which would open up proper spaces for workers to have those discussions in their sectors, instead of having, the climate justice element tagged on to, meetings at the end. We need at least 2 or 3 days where reps from across the sector in, oil, in gas, in automotive, in aviation, in road transport, to have a space to come together, discuss their own expertise, discuss what are the challenges in their sector, what could be the alternative, how we're going to go and get there, and come up with recommendations that then can be put forward through the democratic structures of our unions to, take the next steps. So we have got some interest in the energy sector, automotive, and aerospace for trialing those workers' assemblies. There's so many different issues. I mean, we've got a cost of living crisis, we've got several disputes around pay, we've got job losses, and quite often the sort of like climate justice dimension is the least worry in people's mind. Exactly. So we are hoping we're going to make inroads. Unfortunately, it's not a fast resolution, and it takes time, and we are in a climate emergency, but we need to do what we've got to do to achieve this change, even if it takes longer than we need.
I mean, it's been certainly heartening to see the scale of mobilisation in Britain, especially among Muslim and Arabic communities in support of Palestine. And it's been certainly shocking to see that scale of mobilisation and this sort of inaction and lack of confidence, certainly in the left. I guess, is there space, do you think, to carry that forward with this kind of issue, Palestine, this mobilisation? Do you think there's new connections to be made between Muslim communities in Britain that perhaps haven't been exposed to or haven't been engaged with by eco-socialists?
Of course. I mean, in principle, everyone should be supporting the Palestinian national liberation effort, and it's part of defending working class interests. It's part of resisting the destruction of working class life. It's part of resisting the ideology of defeat imposed upon the Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, and worldwide working classes. But also, it should be aware that it is a signal. It is a signal to say you stand with Palestine, and then people are like, okay, I'm going to listen to this person person when they want to talk to me about a cause that I haven't had the time to think about in my day-to-day life. And you actually take steps to get the boot off those people's neck, right? That is what actual solidarity is, and these remain contentious issues, not only in the right, but they frankly remain contentious in the left, and they should cease to be contentious. And this is how we can have an international, by understanding that we're enfolded differently into the world system.